All right, good morning, everybody. See all these bright and cheery faces. It's good. All right, so we are in Genesis. In case you didn't know, we're in Genesis. I'm gonna change it up on you next week and say, hey, we're in Revelation. Okay. Okay. So we are in Genesis, and last week, anybody remember what we talked about? Genesis, yes.
Maybe the three visitors.
The three visitors, yes.
Sarah believing in open marriage.
What?
Sarah believing in open marriage.
Sarah believing in open marriage. Yes, we talked about that a little bit too. Yeah. So we had the three visitors. Did we talk about circumcision? Yeah, we talked about circumcision last week, didn't we? Okay, so in chapter 17, God is speaking to Abraham, okay, about the covenant that he's making. And so he gives these talks with Abraham, and then he brings out circumcision, and Abraham goes, no. Brings out circumcision, which would be a reminder to each and every male of this promise of heirs. Okay. Then we have in chapter 18 the three wise women. No, not even the three wise men. These three men, three people, one of them is God, two are angels, come and meet with Abraham. And this is, instead of really speaking to Abraham, they're more about Sarah at this point. They're talking loud enough for Sarah to overhear as she is eavesdropping from the tent. They want to make sure she understands that you're the one who's going to have the baby, not some slave. Okay, you get to have the child, and make sure Abraham understands that as well. So we had gotten down from 18:1 all the way down to 18:15, where God is telling Sarah, you left. And by the way, Isaac means what? Laughter, yes. And so both Abraham and Sarah laughed that they're going to have a baby. I mean, come on, if you're 100 years old and your wife is 90 years old, wouldn't you laugh too? I think I would probably cry because good grief, try to keep up with a toddler when you're 100 years old or 90. So Sarah also laughs and she goes, I didn't laugh. And God goes, yes, you did. And that ends the conversation right there. God just walks away. All right, so we're now in chapter 18, starting in verse 16. When the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after them to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. All right, so the first thing is the men are getting up and they're getting ready to leave. I get this picture in my mind. Remember all that food that Abraham made for him? 36 pounds of bread and a whole calf being slaughtered and all this. Abraham packed that up, and now these guys have to carry that stuff. But that was being hospitable. These are provisions for you on your way. And they get up and they start looking toward Sodom. And Abraham goes with them. That was just part of being a good host. He's going to walk them a little ways. He wasn't making sure they get out of his territory. He just walks with them and keeps them safe as far as he can. And then God seems to be talking to either himself or the other two men. I think this is a case, though, where it's like earlier in the chapter, where God is talking to Abraham about Sarah, hoping Sarah will hear, or knowing Sarah will hear. So God is going to talk about Abraham and what's going to happen with Sodom, knowing Abraham will hear. This is for Abraham's benefit, not God's benefit. God's not sitting there deciding what he's going to do. He already knows. So God starts revealing the plan about Sodom. Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely, this is the reason. Verse 18 is the reason God wants Abraham to understand what's happening in Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on the earth will be blessed through him. For I've chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. In other words, I am going to give Abraham a picture, a demonstration of what happens when people completely reject God. All right? That's what God is trying to do. Otherwise, it really wouldn't matter. But God wants Abraham to understand this. All right, verse 20. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. Okay, so an all-knowing God is going to have to go down and test and see if what he's heard from other people is true. That's not really what's going on here. So God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because there's an outcry against it. Question: who is raising prayers to God, crying out to God about Sodom and Gomorrah? Not Lot. He lives there. He doesn't care. There are other people that we do not know about in here who live in Canaan, who are bringing out cries out to the true God. Who else have we met that worship the true God in Canaan? Mr. Mel, yes, Melchizedek. And if he was a priest, then he had some people that were underneath him, right? That were worshiping with him. So it could have been those people. It could have been other people. Someone other than Abraham is still in Canaan who knows the true God. And it's not Lot. Sorry. We're going to see in a little bit what goes on with Lot. So an outcry has come before God about the horrible sinfulness of these people. Their sin is great and grievous. Now he says, I will go down and see if what they've done is as bad as the outcry has reached me. God knows what they've done. I mean, God is omniscient. He knows what he is doing. Remember, this is about teaching Abraham a lesson. So what he is doing is he is going to go down and have the people prove how evil they are. And we'll see that happens, right? So that Abraham can see the justification for this destruction that's coming. So God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because their actions are sinful, like those before the flood. They were just horrible people. Abraham is told why the destruction will happen, so it will encourage his family to not follow that path. Remember who Noah. We were talking about Noah earlier. Remember who Moses is speaking to here. The people in the wilderness. Don't follow the same path Sodom and Gomorrah did. Don't become evil in your path, in your ways, or God will simply wipe you out. Okay? And unfortunately, there were some people during that time that got uppity with God, got uppity with Moses, and God took them out. Right? So this is not just for Abraham, it is for the original hearers of this. there had been an outcry to God, and we talked about that. Who was outcrying? Who was crying out to God? Had to be someone who was following God at that time. And God is going to test the people to demonstrate the truth. So this test was for Abraham to see God does give people chances to do what is right, but will protect others from those who do what is wrong. So there is an outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah because of their evil. That means people wanted to do what was right, but they were still seeing the influence of those who were wrong. And God will take those people out in order to help the spiritual growth of those who are trying to do what is right. Because think about Sodom and Gomorrah are just south of the Dead Sea. Okay, they're in Canaan. They're where all these business people come and go throughout the world. So they would have influence on those who are coming and going, spreading their type of morality to the people of the world. Whereas God wants Israel, the people of Israel, to get into that land and spread God's truth and morality to them as they come through. Okay. All right, here we go. This is a very Middle Eastern passage here, starting in verse 22. The man turned away and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So the two men go on and leave. They're angels. They are not, it's not God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All right. This is God and two angels. He has an entourage. Maybe they were a Secret Service man. I don't know. But it's God and two angels. The two angels go on toward Sodom. The Lord God stands. It was just maybe been a pre-incarnate Jesus standing there in flesh. And don't ask me to explain that one. Remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" Okay, so he is starting out with a bargaining tactic. He is going to bargain God down on this. But he starts out with, I know you're a God of love. You love people who are for you. I mean, look at me. You love me. And since you're that way, I can't possibly fathom the fact that you would just wipe out the good with the bad. There's just no way that a good God would do that. That's his opening salvo to God, trying to shame God, apparently. You're not, you wouldn't do that. I know you better than that. There's just no way. So there's 50 people in Sodom that are good. You'll save it, right? You won't wipe out anybody. The Lord said in verse 26, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." All right. So 50 people, it's all you need. 50 good people in the city of Sodom. And Abraham's going, carry the one. Then Abraham spoke up again. Now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? So here we go. We're bargaining now. And Abraham's got his brain going. It's like, okay, I know Lot and his family are there. How far down can I get this? Would there maybe be 45 people in there? If I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. So 45 people, we're good to go. No destruction. Well, once again, he spoke to him. What if there are only 40 found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it. Yay, 40. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? Now he's tired of going by fives. He says, we need to accelerate this a little bit from getting caught. What if there's only 30 there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. So Abraham's got him down to 30. You notice what Abraham is doing? He is interceding for Sodom. He is interceding for the good people of Sodom. And that's something that we need to remember as Christians. We need to intercede for the good people of Colombia, of Missouri, of the world. We need to intercede with God for them. And at the same time, he is also interceding for the evil people. Give them another chance. Draw them to you. We need to intercede for others. So verse 31. Abraham's still calculating. Now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? And he said, for the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. He's got all the way down from 50 to 20. But he's not done yet. Now he's going. May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. And God goes, okay, what's going on now? What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. God said, that's enough. 10. 10 is enough. 8 is not enough. 10 is enough. Now, think about why Abraham would have gone all the way down to 10. He goes, okay, I'm pretty sure Lot's going to make the cut. His wife, 2 daughters. Perhaps that's only 4. Oh, wait. Maybe Lot's daughters have married off, and so that would be 2 son-in-laws, and then probably 2 in-laws each. That's 10. We should be good. I mean, surely Lot was smart enough to marry his daughters off into good families that really loved God, right? 10 people. Lot's going, I think we got this, or Abraham's going, I think we got this. Okay, chapter 19. Let's discuss Lot for a little bit. He pops up. He is Abraham's nephew by his brother Haran, who passed away in Ur of Chaldees before they ever left Mesopotamia. All right. So he ends up being separated from Abraham in chapter 13. Remember, Abraham says, okay, Lot, you take whatever land you want, and I'll take whatever's left. And Lot says, I want that land over by Sodom. It's nice and plush and green. I want it for my cattle and my sheep. And then in chapter 14, we saw Lot again. He was captured by the kings who had come in against the kings of Sodom and Zoar and others. And Abram has to go and run and catch up to these kings and fight them and defeats them at Laish or Dan, and then rescues Lot. Interesting. I looked closely at that, and it says Lot was recovered, but it doesn't really mention family. So at that point, it seems that Lot may not have been married yet. I am guessing, and because of some of the things that happened later on, that Lot's wife may have been from Sodom. Okay. So that's Lot. He's just kind of sketchy and on the edge. All right. So let's set the scene. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, 19 verse 1. And Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. So the two angels who had been with God and Abraham, they left. Abraham and God have this bargaining thing going on. They continue on and finally make it to Sodom in the evening. Okay, the gate of Sodom. So they moved toward Sodom while God spoke with Abraham, and they have now reached the city gates. So that's where we are. This is not Sodom. This is the excavation of Dan. Remember, I showed you a couple of weeks ago Laish and those bricks, mud bricks. This is on the other side of the hill there. This is the more modern city of Dan. It, instead of being from the time of Abraham, it is from the time of the kings of Israel. Okay, but it does help us see the city wall, how the city walls are. You have this little indentation. You walk on the rocks and then go in through there, and that is the inside. That is the city gate. Now, inside the city gate, you have this little place, raised place that the king would sit in. And if you see these little pots here on the side, those are so they could put rods or beams inside the pots and have a covering over the king or whoever was sitting there at the time. The city gate was the place for the king to sit and do business and hold court. The civic leaders would come and have their city council meetings there. The business leaders would come and conduct business there. This really was a place for the elite of the city to be. And so, in verses 1 and 2, the angels arrive at this gate. They're getting ready to go into the city. And who is sitting at the gate? Lot. He was apparently an influential person, or at least rich enough to be sitting at the gate. He was sitting at the gate of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. That's the same greeting that Abraham gave to the three men. And he kind of prostrated himself on the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. And he goes, you fools, you're on your own. No, he didn't say that. So he is meeting them at the gate. He's showing them hospitality. He's offering them a place where they can wash their feet because your feet get hot and dusty and achy as you walk, especially on those stones. And so he said, come, you can wash your feet, get cleaned up a little bit, and you can spend the night, and then you can go on your way early in the morning. Notice he says early in the morning. It's like, I want to sneak you in and sneak you out. Okay. But they refused. They said, no, we'll spend the night in the square. Now, I don't know if this was really their plan so that they could test the people better, that they want to spend the night in the square, or if they were testing Lot to see how committed he really was to this hospitality and to them.
Did he know they were angels?
He did not. He does not catch on to that until later, much later in the story.
Strangers.
Yeah, they're just strangers. Which means they didn't appear with wings and halos. Okay, they just showed up. They looked like a man. Okay. Okay, verse 3. But he insisted so strongly they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called They needed a drink of water before they could do anything else. So they surrounded the house. And they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them." All right, so Lot is very hospitable to these men. He brings them in, they wash their feet. He makes bread, unleavened bread, which means he didn't wait for the dough to rise. So it was very quick. It wasn't like Abraham, go make 36 pounds of bread. And the guys probably said, don't worry, I think we still have some from Sarah left over. No, he let them, they let him make bread. That was part of what it meant to be hospitable to people. Now, the men in the town learned somehow that there were two new men, two strangers in town. And they surrounded Lot's house and said, bring them out. We want to have sex with them. They wanted to rape the men. So now what's going to happen? Verse 6, Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. Lot's not completely stupid. He knows if he shuts the door, he might have a chance. And said, no, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Okay, we kind of need, this is absolutely horrible no matter which way you look at it, but we kind of need to understand what Lot is thinking here, what he is drawing from. So the rules of hospitality were that you feed and help these people. But if somebody is under your roof, they are in your care. They are under your protection. If something happens to them, it's on you. He is doing everything he can to protect these strangers. All right. Granted, Lot being Lot, he made the wrong decision. He thought, okay, I'll just do something simple here. We'll throw my daughters out there. Lot was always about doing himself and doing the things that would be easiest for him. Okay. I'm not going to fight you guys because one thing I want to win. But here's my daughters. Now, I honestly think that Lot knew they weren't going to take the bait with the daughters. They wanted the men. They wanted the new. If they had wanted the daughters, they could have taken them at any time they wanted. But they want the men.
Oh, I'm confused. Back when he was counting the 10, he counted the daughters and their husbands.
Yep.
This one, they weren't married.
Actually, they were. We'll get to that in a minute. His question is, back when we were counting the 10, we said the daughters were married. First of all, Abraham was probably assuming that. But here, they really are betrothed, which is the same as being married, but you just haven't come together yet as a married couple. That's what's going on here, because we're going to see the sons-in-law pretty soon. All right? Yeah. That does confuse us because we think, well, if you have sons-in-law, they were married, and yet now he's saying that they've never had. How does that work? Well, in that culture, it does, because betrothal, remember Joseph and Mary, they were betrothed, which is that year-long time where it's like they're married. They can't go out with anybody else. They're exclusive, but they're not really married yet. Married. Anyway, yeah, okay. So Lot is upholding these rules of hospitality. The men in the city are not. And now we are seeing why there's such an outcry about these people to God. Because these people are inhospitable. They have no concern for anybody else, only for themselves. And if you go in there, you might be the subject of rape. And let me just say, it'd be male or female, probably. They just wanted to have sex with people, period. Okay, fulfill their own lustful desires. So it's abhorrent to us, and should be, that he offers his daughters. But once again, Lot is trying to protect these men, but he takes the easy way out. All right? So it's still horrible. Verse 9. So the men reply, "Get out of our way," they reply. "This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. Okay, this is the part of the movie where we hope something good happens. Or we think the shark is just going to get him. So they say, "Get out of our way, we're going in." And I guess Lot was trying to push against him, and they start saying, "Look, this guy, he came here as a foreigner. He's not even one of us. And yet here he is judging us, judging our morals." What's the common term now? You can't judge me. Don't judge me. You know what I've found when people say that? They are doing something wrong. They just don't want to be judged for it. And they know they're doing something wrong, but they don't want you judging them. That's what these people are doing. Don't you judge us. We're good people. We know what we're doing. Okay, so the person they're talking to when they say that this fellow came here as a foreigner or an alien, they're talking to Lot. Remember, he came from Abraham, he moved south of Sodom, and then he moved into Sodom. He's not one of the original people when there. He's the new kid in town. Yeah.
They're talking to each other, not Lot. They're talking about Lot, but they're
They're talking about Lot, yes.
talking to each other. This
Yeah.
fellow came here as an alien.
Yeah. Was that your question? Who they're talking to or who they're talking about? Okay, good. So I got the first part. Dave thankfully saved me and got the second part.
You would have gotten there eventually.
Oh, I usually get there when I'm editing the video. It's like, oh, that's what they meant. And I can't answer it. So keep me in line, people. I'm good. Okay, so we'll treat you worse than them. That doesn't sound good at all. And they're pushing toward Lot, and they're ready to break down the door. And we'll wait till next week to no. That would be where they would cut for commercial. Verse 12. Well, no, not 12. Back it up. 10. So they're ready to break down the door, but the men who are inside, these angels, the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness so that they could not find the door. That is a good superpower to have. So these angels are like, yeah, I think our point has been proven. Get in here, Lot, before you die. They pull him in, and they slam the door on these guys, and then they make the guys blind. They can't find the door anymore. I guess at some point they let them see again, but not until much later, probably after Lot's out of there. If they were really mean, they probably these guys are blind until all of a sudden, oh, I can see. What's that big fire thing coming at us? So they have Lot inside the house now. Verse 12. The man said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against his people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So now they've revealed their mission, and now Lot has a mission. If you have any other family out here in this city, get them out. It's time to run. So gather anyone you can in the city and leave before the destruction. Verse 14 is a very sad verse. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry and get out of this place because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. So he had two sons-in-law,
Which explains
your question, who were betrothed to the women, to his daughters, but not yet married to them. I'm not sure how you say that other than married. And he goes to their house. Apparently, I get this picture of Lot just walking through these guys who are going like this, trying to find him. He just walks on through and yeah, whatever, guys. And he goes to the sons-in-laws and talks to them. I'm guessing the sons-in-laws were not part of that group that were surrounding the house. Remember, just because the Bible says everyone, all the men were in the city came, that is Middle Eastern hyperbole. That just means most of them. Doesn't necessarily mean all. Okay. So he goes and he talks to his son-in-law, says, God is going to destroy it. The problem with this is they don't believe in God. They just laugh at him. How could God destroy such a wonderful city? I mean, we have such great residents here. So what we learn from this verse is Lot has married his daughters off to families who do not believe in God. Which means Lot probably doesn't have much to do with God either. If he did, he didn't teach his family anything about him. And so because of this, then, these men and their families are going to be destroyed. So think about that. Lot doesn't influence his family for God, doesn't influence anybody in the city for God. Should that not make us pause and think about what are we doing? Who are we influencing? How are we influencing them?
How was he and the sons-in-law, would they be included in the 10 righteous?
What?
How would they be included in the 10 righteous?
I don't know. I think because the angels just pulled them out. Yeah. Obviously, the son-in-laws are not going to be included in the 10 righteous, so we're still stuck with 4. And it could just be because he was related to Abraham and he did show hospitality. He showed some moral character. So while he may not have been strong in worshiping God, he at least held to some of the moral character exhibited by Abraham that would represent God. Okay. Verse 15. This is the run for your life episode. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. Get out of here, run, hurry, go, go, go. When he hesitated. Okay, so Lot is a bit of a sloth. He's always trying to think of what's best for him. Can I get out of this without having to run out of the city? He hesitated. And the men said, The men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city. I think this was more for Abraham's benefit than it was for Lot and his family. For the Lord was merciful to them. So they say, run. He hesitates. The angels grab him and take him out of the city because God is merciful to them. Even though they're not fully on board with this whole thing.
Did he take the sons-in-law too?
No, Sons-in-law are on their own. It's just 4 of them. Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." So that's pretty plain, isn't it? Run. Don't look back. Just keep going until you get into the mountains. And Lot said to them, no, no, no. My lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes. He's found favor in their eyes because they pulled him out of the city. And you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, here's a town near enough to turn to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Just a little bitty thing. No problems. Then my life will be spared. So once again, Lot is thinking only about himself. I can't go to the mountains. I need to go to the city. Forget the family. It's all about me. And I have a better idea than you have. I know you said go to the mountains, but this city over here is great. It's just a little bitty city. It's like a flea. You can't even see it. So when God destroyed the city, okay, where do we go? Okay, verse 21. He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of. But flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That's why the town is called Zoar. Zoar means small. And it was at one point called Bela, I think. It was one of the cities that rebelled against the 5 kings or 4 kings. Okay. So Zoar, small. It's just a small little town. Okay. Only 30 people. No big deal. So they, instead of sending them to the mountains, they say, okay, go ahead, go to this town, and we won't destroy that town. Verse 23. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Okay, so the family is safe in Zoar at this point. Nothing has happened at all yet to Sodom and Gomorrah. They are safe in Zoar. Verse 24. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. Stop there. So God rains down sulfur, fire. Okay. If you want a good video to watch on the archaeology of this and proving that this actually happened, Expedition Bible, not this one, Expedition Bible with Joel Kramer is a good one. I'll send the link out in the email this week. It's good. He goes through and shows how we have 4 cities that were destroyed. You have 1 that was not. He also shows that there are little sulfur balls or phosphorus balls, some kind, that burn. They're there. And you say, well, how did all of this get burned up? Remember back when the kings were attacking and some of them fell into tar pits? You hit a tar pit with some flaming stuff and it's going to burn. So the whole area was just aflame, right? So now, the family is safe in Zoar. The whole Sodom and Gomorrah, the whole plain is being destroyed. All the people and all the vegetation. And I would assume all the animals. I don't think the sheep and stuff would be able to get out of there. So verse 26. But Lot's wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. So much has been made over this one. Okay. And when you watch the Hollywood version of it, you have Lot and his wife and his family running away, and she just glances back and sees a pillar of salt. When I was in college, they did this. I went to a Christian college, so they, of course, did. So they did this. They had the woman come in. She had a black cloak on, covered over her. And when she turned around, she dropped the cloak. A strobe light came on. She dropped the cloak, and she was all white, and she just froze. She became the pillar of salt. I thought, that is such a good. Anyway, that's not what happens. Not at all. They're already safe in Zoar. They're not running for their life. They're not looking back real fast to see if maybe the fire's coming after them. They are safe in Zoar. They have no reason to look back there. But even if they did just look back and see the smoke like Abraham's going to later, that was okay to see the destruction. But what is going on here is she looks with longing. The Hebrew is saying she wanted to go back. She was absolutely distressed that this city is being destroyed. She wanted to be there instead of with her family and with God in Zoar. She desired to be in Sodom instead of with God. Now think about the people that are hearing this for the first time. People Moses is speaking to. In Numbers chapter 14, verses 1 through 4, and in other places, but really in 1 through 4, they had already spied out Canaan. It's a good land. It is great. It's, you got rivers, you have all it is flowing with milk and honey. And yet the people have rejected going into there. They want to go back to Egypt, where they were enslaved. Egypt is better than the land God is giving us. So think about hearing this story and then understanding, I want to go back to Egypt. Why doesn't God just make me a pillar of salt now? A worthless pillar of salt. So this would cause some thinking on the parts of those who are listening. This woman looked back longingly to go back to where she had been, back away from God. It's the same thing I'm doing. I'm looking back. I want to go back to Egypt. So that's not right. I need to look forward to what God is bringing me to. Verse 27, early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. So this really isn't the next day. It may be the next day, but it could also be, remember, early in the morning is when the fire hit. Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. There is the clue we needed. Why was Lot taken out, even though and his family taken out, even though he may not be so close to God as you think? Because of Abraham. And so think about poor Abraham. He's standing there, he's looking, all this smoke, and he's wondering, did Lot get out? Did his family get out? And surely Lot sent him some word that he managed to get out.
Hey, Bill, I'm still confused about Lot's wife.
Okay.
So was she turned to
She was turned to a pillar of salt.
in Zoar?
While in Zoar, yes. Not out in the middle of nowhere. While they were in Zoar. I don't know if they put her in the town square as a statue or what, but she became a pillar of salt.
But the looking back was not.
No, it wasn't just a glance. It was a longing. I would rather be back there than here.
Longing, rather.
Yes. No. And that's what got her in trouble. And that's what gets us in trouble too. It's in the Hebrew, the way the Hebrew is written, she is looking back, longingly looking back to this. Yeah, the English doesn't do a good job of translating that. We just see it as she looked back. She was standing there looking, longing. It is different than the word used for Abraham looking towards Sodom.
How's it King James, but
Looking back.
the backside?
Yeah.
Is the reason that would be a pillar of salt as opposed to a rock or wooden something or another? Is there any significance to that? It being salt.
Off the top of my head, the only thing I can think of is if you turned her to stone, she could easily become an idol. If she is salt, you can pour water on her and be done with it. That's the only thing I can think of,
Makes sense.
unless God just needed salt that day. Maybe she's the Morton girl, Morton Salt girl.
Let it raise it.
Yeah, what a raise of forts.
It says he destroyed the vegetation as well.
Yeah, like I was saying, everything, you had those tar pits around, it got extremely hot there. So everything in that plain is gone.
Maybe they burned her up, left nothing but the salt that she had in her body left.
Could have been. My only argument against it being just the chemicals that were in the air is nobody else turned to salt. This was something God did. Yeah. Yeah.
God did it the way he wanted it.
God did what he wanted to, and we don't always know why or how.
Test salt. So there's other salt formations in there too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's salt. I mean, it is the Dead Sea, south of the Dead Sea. There's salt all over the place in there. Okay, so verse 30. The story's not over yet, people. Wish it was. It gets worse. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains. Now, wait a minute. Lot sat there and argued, no, I can't go to the mountains, I'll die. And yet now he and his daughters are leaving to go into the mountains. For he was afraid to stay in Zoar. Well, duh. You're the only survivor of this thing. They probably blame you for doing it. Did you light the match or what? He and his two daughters lived in the cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, our father is old and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father drunk to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father. The apple does not fall far from the tree, people. They come up with just as bad ideas as Lot does. Now, I wonder why Lot didn't just go and live with Abraham. Why did he decide, well, I'll just go on and live in the cave? If he had gone and lived with Abraham, the daughters would have had people to be with. Abraham would have taken care of him. But I think there is a history there where from the death of his father, the death of his grandfather, Terah, this moving around and then getting in with Abram, who decides to be a nomad. He goes, kind of like cousin Eddie, and rolling around in an RV. He says, I don't like this God. I don't want to be around Abraham anymore. I'd rather be in a cave than be with Abraham and his God. And so now the daughters have come up with this idea to roofie him and date rape him. So verse 33. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. And again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. And at that point, he swore off wine forever. No. It worked twice in a row. You wonder how dull was Lot. I guess as dull as Samson, who 3 times kept Delilah tried to kill him. He still told her his secret. Sometimes men are just not very smart. So both daughters now are pregnant. Verse 36. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. Incest, rape. What a good history for those children. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. So the Moabites, Moab means from father. So at least they named him right. The Moabites are east of the Dead Sea. They take up residence east of the Dead Sea, almost in the center part of the Dead Sea. What?
It said that's where Ruth came from.
Yes. So verse 38, the younger daughter also had a son. She named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites today. So Ben-Ami means son of my father's people. And they are northeast of Moab. And the original people listening to this are like, we know Moab. We know the Ammonites. We've got to get through their territory in order to get to the promised land, which they didn't really have to. They ended up going around. In Deuteronomy 23:3, God says, no Ammonite or Moabite or any of their descendants may enter this assembly of the Lord, not even in the 10th generation. Why? Because when they came up to Moab, Moab wouldn't let them through to get to the promised land. In fact, the king of Moab had this guy named Balaam who had a talking donkey try to curse them. And God turned the curses around and made it blessings. But Moab then said, well, that's not enough. They got the Israelites to marry their women and start worshiping false gods. So God said, these guys are a really bad influence on you. Just keep them away. Don't let them in anymore. Ammonites said, you're not coming here. So what happens is Israel ends up going in between Ammonites and the Moabites into the Amorites and getting into the promised land that way. But God condemns that. However, we do need to notice that when we talk about Ruth, she is a Moabite. And Ruth ends up as part of the lineage of Jesus. So even with that harsh, with this type of beginning and that harsh condemnation, God can still bring something good out of it. They're just people. And they apparently, Lot had a lot of influence on them. Not a good one. And they were more like Lot than anything. So it is easier to see where God is leading when you know where God has been. And we know where God has been here. Now, what is he leading us into doing? Okay, thank you all very much.